It's time now for a review of what's making headlines across the world in the papers this morning. And so it's time to bring in Arise analyst Constance Ikoku. Good morning, Constance.
A very good morning to you, Adesua, Charles, and Yolanda.
Good morning.
Good morning, Constance.
Good to see you guys.
Likewise.
Great. Well, we'll be looking at the papers this morning with Iyo Akerega. He is a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Hello there and welcome to the program. We'll begin with this day. History as Dangote refinery exports 2 cargoes of jet fuel to Saudi Aramco. Saudi Aramco is Saudi Arabia's national oil company and is the world's largest oil producer. So for the Dangote group, this is a milestone. The refinery's output has steadily increased from 350,000 barrels per day to 550,000. The CEO of the group, Aliko Dangote, also spoke about the challenges of investing in Nigeria, where investors are forced to provide, key services such as power, road, ports, etc., which should be provided by the government. I mean, from all indications, it's a tough terrain to do business here in Nigeria, and only the rugged survive it. Having said that, there's a lot to gain, or a lot of gains to be made. The Dangote Group is doing well for itself. He's not the richest man in Africa for nothing, is he?
Yes, that's good news this morning for Nigeria as a country, and particularly even for Africa. Dangote has proven very clearly that it can be done. The oil and gas sector in Nigeria that has been riddled with all kinds of controversies in the past, that one person can just come and make a difference, and that is what he has shown. He is also, as you said, really, the infrastructure that supports business development and growth in Nigeria, there's paucity of that, and he has told government that it is necessary to fix all of this. It is not enough for the government to say that it is looking at a $1 trillion naira economy, $1 trillion economy. It is also to put in place the necessary infrastructure to do that. And exporting these 2 cargoes to Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia has one of the biggest integrated oil corporation in the world. And so for Dangote to export those 2 cargoes of jet fuel to Saudi Arabia, that has clearly put Dangote on the world map as a business conglomerate to look out for. It is good news for Africa this morning, particularly for Nigeria. But looking inwards, it is very important that now this will also be able to reflect on the prices of fuel, gas, and all of that we consume in the country. Well, Dangote is one man, is in business to make money. His refinery is $20 billion on loan and some of his personal money. So it just simply shows that one man can make a difference, and indeed it can be done. It's a pride to Nigeria.
All right. On that note, we'll move on to the next paper, Daily Trust, which is a sad story this morning. How 17 children died, 16 injured in Zamfara school fire. We have a picture of that school there, completely reduced to rubble. This was a Quranic school, and the incident occurred at night when the pupils had gone to bed. The incident was said to have been ignited by burnt sticks, where the Almajiris usually gather for Quranic recitation. In the night, they would, set up bonfires, use them as a source of light to read at night, as well as get warm, according to this report. After using the bonfires, they did not properly put it out. The fire sparked and escalated to the rooms where the children were sleeping, and the students were burnt beyond recognition. First of all, our condolences to the families of these, all those that were affected. It's such a tragic incident. It's also unfortunate that they said they could not get help when they needed it. The report says it was reported about 2:25 in the morning to the fire service, but the fire truck could not respond due to technical issues. Charles, it's like it's a case of you on your own.
Well, they said due to technical issues. It's very simple. They did not have water, period. That's usually the problem. In any case, what happened was a case of gross negligence. Now, those kids were sleeping in a house. There were about 100 of them, cramped together. And then where they were sleeping, you had the corn stalks, dry corn stalks, stored there. it's like sleeping inside a place where you have combustible material like fuel. So the danger was already there. Then it was like a case of literally playing with fire. So they used those cone stalks to, create bonfires at night, use it to study, and then they didn't extinguish the fire properly, and that's exactly what followed. It ignited what was already there. And then the next thing they said was that they thought that they had evacuated all the children, meaning a head count was not even conducted after the fire started. The children were brought out, but then nobody took any roll call or census to ensure that they were all safe until it was too late.
Right.
17 children tragically burned. I think we have to take a second look at this Almajiri school system. It needs to be properly regulated. Government actually has to come in. If not, leaving them to their own designs, we might just have some of these unfortunate stories. Maybe this is because it was a disaster of that magnitude, but a lot has been happening too that has gone unreported or probably underreported.
Hopefully, people are held responsible for this tragic incident. Let's move on to the Punch newspaper. 54 trillion naira budget. Experts divided over raise. FG adds 4.5 trillion naira agri infrastructure funds. The federal government, obviously here has increased the budget from 49.7 trillion naira to 54.2 trillion. And this is generating opposing views from different groups. The raise was due to improved non-oil revenue generation, which include expanded tax collections, customs duties, revenue from government-owned enterprises, and the oil revenue projections on a crude oil benchmark of $75 per barrel, which, I don't know, it's tricky, and a production target of 2.06 million barrels per day, and an exchange rate of 1,500 naira per USD. For a country this size, this appropriation bill was considered, well, what we had before was considered small, especially with the high rate of inflation. So this marginal increase should be welcomed. Or what do you think?
Well, it should be welcomed, but if you also recall, the budget cycle is supposed to begin from 1st of January. Now we are in February. Experts are also arguing that it should have been a supplementary budget in the first place. That is the additional 4.5 trillion naira that the federal government is introducing, where the excuse is that it is going to be ploughed into agriculture and infrastructure, particularly roads and all of that. We wait to see how that reflects on the life of the common person. Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are in abject poverty as we speak. There's hunger everywhere. Well, we can argue that the budget is small, but even with the small budget, how has it impacted positively on the life of Nigerians? That is a big issue for debate. Right. Well, it is good that the government has upped it, he has increased it. The projections are there, about 3.38 trillion, 33.3 trillion. That is that's going to be the budget deficit, and there's supposed to be some borrowing, that will be used to finance the deficit. So the government itself is also expecting that there will be deficit. Right. Don't also forget that our budget cycle usually suffers poor implementation. The highest that we have done is about 42% or so. We've not done 60 or 70% of budget implementation. So if we're able to achieve that this year, perhaps that will reflect positively on the life of Nigerians.
Well, a lot of gaps there. Let's move on to The Guardian. This one we can bring in here. Poor funding, capacity hobble Amotekun's mandate in Southwest. In 2026, Southwest states launched Amotekun, a security outfit to tackle the problem of insecurity in the region. Amotekun was meant to complement the efforts of the police to combat kidnapping, robbery, and farmer herders crisis. From day one, there were concerns about adequate funding for the formation. That concern has not gone away, and in fact, is said to be affecting the performance of the outfit today. The current state of affairs was expected as a possible pitfall. It does not mean that the organization has failed completely. It just means that the same challenges that were being faced by the police is faced by Amotekun.
Yes, I mean, this idea of a lack of funding is that we sometimes have good ideas, but we fail when it comes to the proper implementation of those ideas. And, you know, we have grand ceremonies to launch things, but then when it comes to sustainability of these systems, we don't continue to invest in them. You know, and just going back to what we were saying about the budget and the increase in budget, this is coming at a time where Nigeria is facing, you know, it's said that they're going to increase agriculture, infrastructure, even minerals, our solid minerals spaces. But when it comes to agriculture, and NIMET just said that Nigeria is going to face, a lot of states in Nigeria are going to face a dry spell during our rainy season. That's even longer than it was last year. And we know that when it happened last year, we had farmers who were so depressed that, you know, some people even claim that some farmers were taking their lives. If we have dry spells again this year, we're talking about food insecurity. So we need this investment, particularly in the agricultural space. But our budget now, even if you look at it and you look at what is prioritized, even within these organizations, doesn't give one much hope.
Well, more money, but like you said, and you have also pointed out implementation. Let's see, those monies, are they plugged in properly and utilized the way they should be? Quickly, let's look at a couple of other papers, headlines. Daily Independent, BOT backs governors, recognizes Ude Okoye as party scribe. This is in regard to the PDP crisis. Then Dogara attributes Boko Haram other security challenges to bad governance. Ganduje says Tinubu's reforms painful but unavoidable. And we'll move on to the Daily Sun. Reps panel, Elders Forum begged Tinubu to release IPOB leader Kano. Import license dispute, NNPCL, Dangote no faith, March 18. Then why APC will win Anambra governorship election, according to National Secretary. Then on to the international headlines. Daily Graphic, Speaker reverses suspension of 4 MPs. We recall there was chaos in the Assembly over the ministerial vetting on January 30, leading to lawmakers throwing punches at one another. Those involved have now apologized and have therefore been recalled. Citizen newspaper this morning, Ramaphosa's call to Musk explained. Apparently, President Ramaphosa of South Africa had a telephone conversation with Elon Musk following President Trump's threat to cut off aid to SA over the government's land confiscation policy. Musk, originally from South Africa, is heading the White House Department of Government Efficiency. Ramaphosa says there's a lot of disinformation on this land matter, and that engagement with the Trump administration will ensure better and more understanding with what is going on in South Africa. I mean, Yolanda, what do you make of this? We also remember that before Trump came into power, Ramaphosa had spoken to Musk about investing in South Africa. So I guess here he's trying to thread the needle to make sure that the investment stays. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
By what is going on with this phone call, because some are saying that it is surrounded over the issue of land, while as well they're saying that there are discussions that are around renewable energy and technology, because apparently Musk is a don in this field. But I think we spoke about this yesterday when you were not here, and one of the things I highlighted was that Donald Trump, basically the Trump administration, is a little bit out of its depth in this, in that why are they meddling into what's happening in South Africa? We should be handling our own issues here. I also mentioned yesterday that it reminded me of similar situations in Zimbabwe when we were having land disputes, and President Robert Mugabe at the time was telling, Tony Blair to keep his UK while he keeps his Zimbabwe, because Ramaphosa actually made a similar statement as well. So It's slightly confusing here if this is, diplomatic talk, if they're trying to make something work. I can't really tell. I don't know whether I'm coming or going with this one.
Okay. So another angle to this is that the EFF is accusing Musk of trying to use his relationship with Trump to introduce a satellite company, Starlink, without following the 30% local ownership legislation, which he claims will open the door for him. So EFF sees this as an unelected official, You know, in fact, they've accused Ramaphosa of breaking diplomatic protocol by calling an unelected billionaire official of the Trump government, and they said this should not be happening. Igor, can you come in here? Okay. What do you think?
Well, there are a couple of dimensions to this that, well, what Yolanda said is very correct. There are a whole lot of issues there, but I think what is of interest to me this morning is all the back and front. Don't forget that South Africa itself also got involved in the Middle East crisis, took the United States government to the ICC. So I'm sure that should be at the back of Trump's mind, that South Africa is standing up to the US. That's one. The second one is the issue of AIDS. Why are African countries so dependent on aids coming from the West and America? You can see that the US government, particularly Trump, is using that to threaten many countries in the world, whether it is about tariff, it's about cutting off aids. We saw what he did when he said he's withdrawing about $5 billion to support condoms supply to Gaza and all of that. So once he talks about aid, African countries shiver. This is a wake-up call to most African governments that it's time to look inwards and then use our resources for the benefit of our people.
Important to point out that this idea of sending billions for condoms to Gaza has been debunked by multiple people in the media. So even though Trump is putting out outlandish figures and saying that he's giving so much aid to South Africa, we also need to know that it's specifically when it comes to HIV. Yes, it's just a single aid, and it's just HIV treatment and prevention intervention in South Africa. So even if we're saying, because there are certain countries in Africa that are maybe more dependent on aid than they need to be. But when it comes to South Africa, we should not allow that they have one medical program in South Africa mean that they can overrun their constitution or overrun their laws and try and use their muscle to bully bully one of the giants of Africa.
Well, Trump, what do you call it? Musk is trying to get his way. That's what this
He's
is
a businessman after all.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Guardian this morning, Trump's Gaza takeover plan faces global condemnation. We already know he says he wants to clean out Gaza, relocate them to Egypt and Jordan, and then America is going to own it. Israeli Prime Minister was watching during that press conference. He was grinning from ear to ear, apparently in support of this plan, but a lot of the countries worldwide...
She definitely would be, because it will just remove a thorn in his flesh, permanently. However, that was a very, very outlandish proposal by Trump, and I doubt if it would ever see the light of day.
He's just stirring the nest, I think. He's stirring the pot. That's what I think.
Today, his lieutenants, his top officials are trying to explain that no, he didn't mean it that way. It wasn't meant to be a hostile thing. That it would benefit the Palestinian people in the long run. How that would happen, no one knows anyway. But of course, what they are trying to do is a bit of damage control. Okay,
quickly, let's look at our last paper this morning, Daily Mail. Kemi, I'll ban migrants who claim benefits from becoming UK citizens. The leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch, has said she's laid down her immigration plans, actually, and she's tightening the rules over immigrant workers. The indefinite leave to remain has now increased from 5 to 10 years, and people must show they are earning enough to support themselves. The daughter of migrants herself, Auntie Kemi, seems determined to show that she can be tough on this matter. Is this populist, or is she taking the right steps? We're out of time. That's why you wanted to say something quickly.
My favorite thing about anything Kemi says she will be doing is that she will never be doing it because she's not going to be the Prime Minister.
Oh, well, are you sure?
I really, if I was a betting person, I will put my money on it. I will bet on that.
I will not bet with you, so let's leave it at that. Well, thank you so much, Iu Akerega, a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, for joining us this morning. That's all we can take on the paper review.
Well, thank you for joining us, Dr. Constance Ikweku. It's lovely, as always, to have you on Daybreak. And that's all the time we have for you, our lovely viewers, on Daybreak this morning. I'm Adesu Agiwalsage.
I'm Charles Eruka. Goodbye.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.